uncompromising knockout artist from Puerto Rico. Amanda Serrano, nicknamed the Real Deal, doesn't believe in half measures and leaves no room for mistakes. With the speed of a sprinter and the toughness of an old-school fighter,
she's throwing everything for it.
She turned every round into a survival test. Today, we dive into the story of a woman who made risk her currency and rewrote the rules of big-time boxing.
As you can see, these are all my babies.
Forged between Puerto Rico and Brooklyn, Amanda Serrano grew up in a family where boxing wasn't a dream, it was everyday life. Her sister Cindy walked into the gym first, then came 12-year-old Amanda, and she stayed there for good.
I'm more of the boxer, like I said, I imitate Hector Camacho. She's a banger, brawler, she's a Mike Tyson go-get-you, so.
And right there, in a small Queens gym where there were fewer people but harder work, Amanda chose her way of speaking to the world. At first, they tried to talk her out of it.
I was like, no way in the world, this is not for you.
Not my little sister.
They even set up a real sparring session with a guy who wouldn't hold back. Amanda came out of that experience shaken, but she came back. A short amateur career, 9-1, but the style was already there. Pace, anger, pressure, and the desire not to win a round, but to break confidence. By 2008, her amateur run was already speaking for itself. Local wins quickly gave way to bigger arenas. After that, she doesn't wait. She storms through her first professional year like a hurricane, sweeping everything aside. For that activity and fearlessness, Serrano is named Rookie of the Year.
Dedication, motivation.
It's an important marker, because from that point on, she keeps moving the same way.
Looking to load up, but right by Serrano.
No pauses, no waiting for the perfect moment, and no habit of protecting herself.
A left by action. What a fight! New York!
By 2011, her path is no longer just about activity. The first serious trophies appear, a first vacant belt, and an opponent who still doesn't realize how fast this night is going to end. From the opening seconds, Serrano's left finds Scott's chin. Every punch is a stress test. But at one moment, the right hand lands clean, and a combination follows. The final combinations rain down without pause. And the first real belt stays with Amanda Serrano. And in that moment, it becomes clear. Serrano has something you can't teach in one training camp: a finisher's instinct.
It's not just fighting in the ring for us, it's fighting outside the ring as well.
Then, a real breakthrough. Her first world title, the IBF Super Featherweight belt, and a couple of months later, an opponent with whom Serrano already shares history. Every one of their meetings is pure spectacle for the crowd, and another notch higher in tension.
Protect the body. This is straight down.
The first round, entirely on her terms. But already in the second, Nunes fires back hard, meets her with punches, and drags the fight into a grinder.
Ooh, solid right. We saw that right in front of us. Landed right on the butt. Another one on the chin. Ooh, and she's saying no.
Round after round. Punches fly without pause.
Stepping out and punching while stepping out, that's really good boxing. She works that uppercut beautifully. Oh, and there's, just as I say that, Ella Nunes.
Faces swell, but neither woman thinks about stepping back.
Oh, back. Nunez comes right back.
And comes back with the hooks.
Look at the way she spins her around. And the head movement is saving Ella Nunez. She's moving her head just enough to avoid some of the shots.
Every segment, under the roar of the crowd.
And then they go again. Well, I guess my guarantee came up, huh?
Yeah, you hit it right on the spot. Great fight, great main event.
A fourth meeting, and once again, war until the final second.
And they still, now she's taking some shots. And Amanda's, where is she coming up with all this energy? Unbelievable. Oh my goodness. What a fight.
Thank you, Ella. She's a true warrior. Every fight was a hard fight. I love her. And she made me who I am today.
With a flawless performance, Serrano convinced the decision-makers to grant her a shot at a full world title. Standing opposite her was the undefeated Swedish beauty, Frida Wahlberg. Fighting on home soil, she had long built a reputation as a boxer who prefers tempo control over brutal exchanges. From the opening minutes, Serrano marches forward, applies pressure, and takes ownership of the fight. She attacks relentlessly, presses, and drags the champion into exchanges. But Wahlberg withstands the pace, works off the back foot, and gradually starts taking the moments. Round by round, she grows more confident in controlling the shape of the fight. Serrano never manages to turn the tide. And for the first time, a decision, controversial to many, goes in favor of Frida Wahlberg. That loss only makes her more dangerous, awakening a personal hunt within her. She begins moving between divisions, collecting titles with the same cold precision she once used to collect knockouts. In the summer of 2014, the reigning lightweight champion Maria Maderna promised to test her star power, compact, yet far from passive. The Argentine had no issue tying Serrano up by the head and throwing punches.
Hay que ver cuando se le va de la cabeza el bombardeo del primero a la peleadora de las flores.
Serrano did not stay in debt. The response came as a low blow, followed by a shot upstairs as Maderna doubled over.
Golpe bajo clarito. Golpe bajo clarito de Amanda Serrano. Abajo si me dan a mi grito.
After the fight resumed, Maderna returned to the same dirty tactics. But now Serrano steps forward.
Le ha marcado el estoicismo de Maderna.
¿Alguna duda, alguna reserva respecto de su solidez
contra Maderna? Va a jugar la...
Short, powerful combinations to the body and head steadily break her opponent's resistance.
Pelean a 10 por el Mundial Liviano de la Argentina. Van a la ley del golpe por golpe, del palo por palo.
Maderna begins swinging wider and wider.
Marcados.
La diferencia a la hora de gozar.
In the sixth, Amanda cuts off the ring and starts landing power shots with almost no reply.
Que tanto le gusta, no mucho le produce.
The final accent, a short right.
Bomba de Serrano y la colgó a Maderna.
And the WBO belt changes hands to Serrano.
Serrano, the reigning WBO champ.
From there, she moves through divisions like a hurricane, leaving opponents no time to adapt.
Round one, Torres is defenseless. She's not fighting back. Serrano can smell a win. She's pressing it. She's throwing massive combinations, and Tora's not throwing. They might step in around number. What do they do? Oh my goodness!
The pressure builds round after round. Distance disappears.
Serrano is an aggressive fighter, so she's going to be aggressive, just out of habit and temptation.
And the moment an opponent makes the slightest mistake,
Punches by Serrano, uppercuts, right hook.
That left uppercut quite a bit. Yes, she is. And that's a
Serrano punishes without pause or hesitation, turning the fight into one-sided survival.
Will Serrano wear down? I don't know, but Serrano certainly is working harder.
by Serrano.
And at some point, it stops being theory. 2016 opens without warm-ups or explanations. A Canadian steps into the ring, but from the very first seconds it's clear, Serrano has no intention of giving her a chance.
So it's important for the women.
Oh,
Nice
there's a right
hook.
hand. That rock gorilla.
Yeah, the ropes held her up. Nice short.
Right after the restart, Serrano goes forward again, finds the target twice with an overhand,
Still not
There's
on
a
this.
right on right play here. There's a right hook. A left
Who was going to quit?
She is in trouble. 30.
then finishes the sequence with another right hook,
Oh, another right hook. But everybody. Oh, big right hook again.
and adds the WBO World Feather title to her collection.
10 seconds in that.
After finishes like that, opponents start entering the ring already cautious, and Serrano's name begins to press before the opening bell. She closes 2016 with yet another belt, the WBO at junior featherweight, becoming a 4-division world champion and matching Miguel Cotto's record for Puerto Rico. There's no pause after that. Early in 2017, she calmly retains the title in a long, demanding fight.
Serrano bastırıyor. Sağ direkt tekrar. Bir sol koşa vuruyor. Round'un sonunda kıyametler kopuyor adeta. Yasmin Rivas, Meksikalı.
And already in the spring, she moves even higher, where the pressure builds round after round.
After she fired. Oh, beautiful uppercut by Serrano. Team up with a pickup hand.
And ends in a stoppage.
Needs to put on pressure. Is that it?
Another weight, another belt. 2017 makes her the first woman in boxing history to win world titles in 5 different divisions.
To be a 5-division world champion is amazing. To be the first female and the first Puerto Rican to do so. I'm so proud to be Puerto Rican.
And now it no longer sounds like a career. It sounds like a warning. Weight isn't a cage when you become the cage for your opponents. At this point, the boundaries of boxing start to feel tight.
I love being a champion. I love accomplishing goals. That's what pushes me and motivates me to continue to fight.
At the end of 2017, Serrano signs with an MMA promotion, and by spring, 2018 steps into the cage. 2 rounds go her way. The third, clinch work, ground fighting. A draw. But instead of stepping back, she goes deeper. Aminda dives into grappling, and just months later tests it at a jiu-jitsu tournament, taking gold in 4 submissions in a single night.
30 seconds, let's go. Hard. Hard 1, 2.
After yet another championship belt in boxing, it becomes clear MMA isn't an experiment, it's the next route, especially where risk finally starts paying for real. While many expected her to choose one direction, Serrano keeps moving in several at once. A month after the jiu-jitsu tournament, she returns to the ring and jumps several weight classes up, no longer chasing a quick finish, but methodically taking control of the fight. 10 rounds of pressure, working as the aggressor, and the WBO title in a new division goes to her by decision. Another limit that stops being a limit. And again, no pause. Just a month later, she's back in the cage and finishes even faster, submitting Erendina Ordóñez with a rear naked choke in the first round.
Serrano's got dynamite in those hands and she knows it. Nicely done by Serrano.
By this point, the scale has already moved beyond the familiar. Serrano isn't just shifting between weight classes, she leaves a mark in every single one. Early 2019 becomes another confirmation. A fight in New York ends in the first round.
Constant pressure.
And the WBO super flyweight title is added to the collection.
She's the new WBO junior bantamweight champion of the world.
7th weight class, a number rarely seen even in men's boxing, and the line beyond which Serrano's name is fixed as an exception, not an anomaly. But she has no intention of staying here. By the fall of 2019, the noise around Serrano grows louder. She moves between divisions, and one name starts surfacing more and more often: Katie Taylor. A possible move to 135, a big fight, a collision of meanings. But before looking upward, there's order to be restored here. Madison Square Garden, New York. Across from her, Heather Hardy, undefeated, tough, used to surviving on grit.
Serrano says it.
In the very first round, Hardy eats heavy shots and is visibly fading by the end of it.
It's very hard. Hardy does look hurt. Taking shots, she fights back. Coupled to the...
If the rounds were longer, this fight could have ended right there.
Hard left hands to the head. Taking a close look at this barrage. Serrano puts through the roof. Heather Hardy is as tough as they are.
Then the fight sinks deeper. Serrano eases off the opening pace, but control never disappears.
Against Serrano. Right now, and I'm sure Amanda Serrano's seen that at the store. Nope. And in the main event here tonight.
Hardy holds on through sheer toughness. Goes all the way. 10 rounds dictated by Serrano. The judges' cards leave no room for questions. She takes the titles and starts a new era. The Serrano era at featherweight.
Serrano and Simone, the pink with the black top. And right away, aggressive exchange between...
Early 2020 comes without warm-up. Serrano doesn't drag fights out and leaves no space for doubt against Brazil's Simone Silva.
Straight left that catches De Silva, and De Silva goes down.
Pressure from the opening minutes. A tempo the opponent can't adjust to.
Constantly, as De Silva tries to dance away, she at the end of the second.
And a quick stoppage that turns the defense into a formality.
Peppers away at De Silva. How much of a beating is she going to take?
End of the year. And the script repeats. Even harsher. A rematch where Santana has neither time nor opportunity to impose anything of her own. It ends almost instantly, underlining one thing: featherweight is firmly her territory now.
I don't like to make predictions, but just don't blink.
She took 2 mixed martial arts fights because she felt she was...
In 2021, she takes the next step, not just winning, but cementing authority.
And Serrano answers back. 9, 10, 8, 10 in their last 5, so...
Bermudez lasts longer, tries to survive, to absorb the pressure, but the fight steadily drifts in one direction.
Serrano's sharper. Bermudez has gotten a couple counters.
Round, and she's probably just gonna...
That was a lazy lead left, but...
Round by round, Serrano methodically dismantles her, driving the shots lower and lower until a clean body shot in the late rounds draws the final line.
Stiff jab.
Great head movement from Serrano to get out of trouble.
Oh, and now it looks like Bermudez...
That's a body shot.
Goes down from a body shot.
Oh, it's over.
On June 11th, 2021, Serrano returned to MMA and defeated Mexico's Valentina Garcia by submission, a standing guillotine, in just 1 minute.
Big shots, there's the level change. Putting her hand on the elbow, now taking it off. More turn high, the tap.
That August, without hesitation or build-up, she returned to boxing to defend her titles against Yamaleth Mercado.
Right there. That's the pace that's in her.
This is where her style reads perfectly. She doesn't always kill you with pace in the first round. She just applies pressure so relentlessly that her opponent ages by the minute. By now, it's clear. At featherweight, there's no one left to argue with Serrano. And that's when the entire boxing world turns its attention to Katie Taylor.
I have everything. There's no questioning my heart, my skills, my power, my chin. So there's nothing I don't think Katie Taylor has that.
For the first time in history, a women's fight becomes the main event of the arena. And both know there is no way back. Even before stepping into the ring, Serrano proposes a format of 10 rounds, 3 minutes each, the same as the men. Taylor refuses, believing that the very fact of this night has already proven everything.
I don't really feel like that will make a huge difference. The event is already iconic the way it is.
Two paths that have run parallel for far too long finally converge at a single point. How far you can go when you're not afraid to go all the way.
Look at this crowd. Women can sell, women can fight, and we put on a hell of a show.
There was a few who thought that was enough to win the contest, but it was close.
Next comes the return to featherweight and real belt collecting. Serrano unifies the titles, takes another one.
The real deal, Serrano.
Then comes the fight for Undisputed. Erica Cruz brings what she has: volume, endurance, an attempt to drown the fight in pace and clinches. Against Serrano, it turns into a slow erasure.
Landing as well. Both of these. Oh wow, big cut, or at least a blow.
The shots are landing on both the fighters.
Oh, right hand there from Cruz. Cruz won her first fight.
By the middle of the fight, it's clear Cruz is working at full capacity just to remain in the game.
Cruz! That may have hurt Cruz. Oh, she's not looking good now, is she? Here. 45 seconds to go here.
And in the final moments of the fight, they unleashed a relentless back-and-forth war.
To go. Serrano and Cruz for the Undisputed Championship of the world. They gave us everything they had and another.
That night, Serrano becomes the undisputed featherweight world champion, and the first four-belt undisputed champion from Puerto Rico, regardless of gender. A point she walked toward for years, and a status that's no longer debated, only accepted as fact.
What do you want next?
Well, of course, I want the last piece of the puzzle to become Undisputed, and then the rematch with Katie Taylor. What better story than Undisputed versus Undisputed? It will add to the legacy, to both our legacies, which will be awesome.
Been stunned twice. That lead foot battle ever so important in the body early. You're seeing body work.
Summer 2023, Serrano returns to a familiar name, Heather Hardy, a rematch that's no longer about intrigue, but about setting the order.
It wants to do more and more of it. It's a variety. It's upstairs. It's downstairs.
All 10 rounds go to Serrano, and with them, every belt she holds carried not like trophies, but like part of the workday.
And you know what's going to happen here, gentlemen. Here we go. Oh, to the finish we go.
Just a month later, Serrano signs a contract with PFL.
It's official, guys. I am part of the PFL team.
And in the fall, she faces a fight that goes beyond the usual script. Daniela Ramos. 12 rounds of 3 minutes, a format many didn't believe in.
Starting to heat up from Daniela Ramos. To really swell a little bit more on the part of
Serrano doesn't adapt or test the edges. She sets the tempo immediately, like a machine that doesn't need rest.
Serrano sitting down on some punches here. And these shots that are landing like that with a left hand. And that hurts. Daniela Ramos, another Daniela Ramos.
Over 1,000 punches thrown, hundreds landing clean, a rhythm with no pauses and no discounts for distance.
On their feet, going wild. Round 11 is starting. Round timer in. Serrano is swarming.
After the fight, she says it plainly. This is the only way she wants to fight. When the WBC refuses to support the format, Serrano takes a step few are willing to take. She voluntarily vacates the belt. Not because of a loss, not because of weight, but because for her, the right to choose in equal conditions matter more than medal.
Need those extra minutes. Oh, big shot.
She enters 2024 without fanfare. Serrano still dictates the pace and finishes the job before his opponent have time to adjust.
Biting down. She's throwing everything for his
And then the shadow returns, the one that's followed the entire second half of her career. Katie Taylor.
It's absolutely an amazing opportunity that we both have, and I just can't wait to step in there and showcase what I can do again and get another win.
The first fight with Taylor gave no answers. It left questions, too many controversial moments, too dense a pattern for the story to end right there. The rematch became inevitable. A different weight, the same stage.
And there again, nice shot. Taylor here in Brooklyn probably fights at 126, and yet she's brought her power. They have had so many legends.
In the second bout, nothing fundamentally changed. The same tempo, the same battle for space, the same distance.
It is ill-conceived for Taylor to get into the third, and the pressure building, and the firefight was set off.
Serrano working with volume and pressure, Taylor with movement and timing.
Over the backhands have to make so much room. Good hook.
And Taylor meeting in the center ring. There's the handspring from Taylor, but she gets caught in. Have his ribs recovered yet? And it's Taylor. Taylor.
The fight again went to a decision, and once again the judges' cards didn't favor Amanda. By then, one thing was clear. This conflict wouldn't close with a single result. It demanded a third point.
When she says the world knows that she won the fight, does that bother you?
I'm uninterested in what Amanda says about the fight. I'm only interested in what the judges say about the fight. And I am 2-0 here.
Listen, that's understandable, but the world has eyes. The world has eyes. They saw what they saw. It sucks that it takes 3 judges, 3 people who see something completely different, but millions of people saw it another way.
July 2025, Madison Square Garden. The third fight came without surprises and without illusions. Both knew exactly what would happen in the ring. Serrano pressed forward again, trying to overwhelm with volume and initiative. Taylor answered with control and precision. Round after round, the fight stayed tight and tense, with no clear break. After the final bell, the decision once more went Taylor's way, by majority verdict. 3 fights, 3 decisions. Not a story explained by the scorecards, and not one that can be closed with a single sentence. This is usually where stories fall apart, but not this one. In spring 2025, Serrano signs a lifetime agreement with Most Valuable Promotions to continue her career under their banner and afterward move into a management role, overseeing the development of women's boxing. This isn't about purses or status anymore. It's about trust and influence, about someone who doesn't just fight inside the system, but will help shape what comes next. By the end of 2025, the trajectory shifts again. A rematch with Erika Cruz was planned for January 3, 2026, in San Juan, but the fight collapses due to a failed doping test on the opponent's side. The replacement comes without delay. The date stays, the location stays. It fits her path perfectly. No waiting, no comfortable conditions, just the next walkout. In the end, this story isn't about the score or the list of belts. She has enough of those to prove nothing with numbers. 7 weight classes, records, awards, recognition as one of the best of her era. That's already fixed. What remains is the only question that keeps this story alive. What comes next for a fighter who lost 3 times to the same opponent by decision, and never once disappeared from the conversation about greatness? If you liked the video, don't hold back on the like. Subscribe to the channel, and remember, in boxing, you can lose on points. Only those who stop showing up truly disappear, and Serrano shows up again.